There are countless books, white papers, blog posts, workshops, and TED Talks about building a community, all offering complex models and guidelines. A strong and cohesive community is pretty simple. It's just bringing together people with similar interests and challenges to learn, connect, and serve for the good of themselves and others. Communities that make a difference understand the chances one gives are just as important as the chances one takes. That's why CEO.com clubs exist, to give and take chances on ourselves and others. CEO.com clubs are exclusive, invite-only communities that connect visionary leaders based on specific challenges, industry focus, and leadership goals. We do this in various ways, including providing a private social network for community members only, highly curated leadership events, access to our member directory, and, well, you get the idea. You can learn all about the array of benefits at ceo.com/clubs. More than anything, what CEO.com clubs uniquely do better than anyone else is bringing leaders with similar interests and challenges together to ask each other the following two questions. How can I help you? And how can we give a chance to someone else? If you're a leader in a specific industry who wants to give and take chances on yourself and others, CEO.com has a club for you. Life is more gratifying and full of purpose when you become someone who gives as many chances as you take.
How far away are we where we all have our own guard dogs? Robot guard dogs, to be clear.
Interestingly, you may not need the robo guard dog, right? So there have been a lot of attempts at using robos, like both like humanoid robos or like a dog, right? Why don't you just put 10 cameras, right, around your property instead of having a robo dog or a drone just going around, right? And then at some point needing a charge again. So in my opinion, they look cool, all these humanoid robos and robo dogs, but what will really solve the problem is a ubiquitous presence of cameras everywhere, right? You have cameras on the walls, you have cameras in your cars, you have cameras on poles, you have cameras on the streets, on the bridges. I mean, you have cameras everywhere. I think that is the real way I think everyone is going to solve the problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of wild that we're going to live, or we already do kind of live in that type of society, but here we are, right? Uday, thank you so much for coming on the show. It means a lot to have you here. You're the CEO and founder of Sentry AI. You have a degree, an MBA from Duke University. You went to Indiana Institute of Technology. You have an incredible career and story, but tell us how you became the CEO of Sentry AI.
Yeah, I've always been passionate about solving real world problems. And when I found an opportunity, I just could not stop myself. I guess this is a similar story for most entrepreneurs, right? When you find something that really spurs you, like something that you're really excited and passionate about, you want to do something about it. And in my case, it's definitely a mission, which is to make the society crime free. And it's obviously a lot bigger than me. And the only way it could happen is by bringing other people along. So I had to start a company, bring other people along who shared the same vision and mission. And, that's basically how we got started.
Yeah, that's incredible. So tell us what Sentry AI does.
So we build AI version of security guards. So as you know, right, you cannot have a security guard everywhere. So how can I make that happen with technology? So that is fundamentally what Sentry AI is doing. How can we make our communities safer and secure by using technology as a way of democratizing access to security, which we cannot do. We cannot hire enough people to man every home, every street, every public place. We need to use technology very efficiently. I think that's exactly what Sentry AI's aim is.
So I saw recently, like, just because, I'm following the recent election and all that type of stuff, that even like President Trump at Mar-a-Lago needed there was like a robot. I think it was designed by Boston Dynamics or something like that. That was literally doing what you're just saying, but it was like a physical robot patrolling
Yeah.
kind of like the area or the perimeter or whatever the where he was. What do
Mhm.
you make of that? And like, is that kind of like, do you see your technology powering that, being a part of that? What did you think when you saw that? That must have been validating.
Absolutely. I mean, just to imagine, right? Like your presidential candidate, being targeted twice, right, and getting a bullet, by his ear and narrowly escaping, an assassination. It's really scary, right? So, I mean, people like you and me are like nothing compared to, a person who has access to all these secret security, like security service and all, right? So that makes everyone wonder, like, what is security? How can we bring that, to everyone, right? And exactly, this robotic dog is one such manifestation, right? How can I have eyes and ears everywhere? I mean, for a good reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not the Orwellian vision, but how can I use it for a good purpose to prevent crime from happening? And this is again quoted by another very famous entrepreneur, Larry Ellison of Oracle, said basically everything that you do is now going to be captured on some camera somewhere, right? And this vision is going to be so ubiquitous, right, that you just cannot avoid it. Now the bigger problem is now you have all these cameras everywhere. I mean, some estimates are about 500 million cameras worldwide, and a few other estimates are like a billion and half security cameras worldwide, right? With so many cameras and so many feeds coming in, you can't even hire enough people to watch them 24 by 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is basically where the AI, another big topic, right, which is on everyone's minds right now, is going to help us. And this robotic dog that you mentioned, and all the people who are surrounding either Trump or any other public official, they need help, right? The robotic dog is one. There could be drones. There are like fixed cameras. You need different types of ways of keeping an eye on every inch of property everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think that's basically what I see, us going to, right, whether we like it or not. So I think this is the status of affairs, right? People have voted very clearly, whether you're in California or in New York or anywhere. People have voted for security, and you see that across the propositions that were passed, the people that got elected, that got removed and recalled from office. The very dominant theme for this election has been about security and safety, right? I think this is going to happen, and this trend is going to continue, not just in the US but across the world. And people think, hey, when you have all these cameras, how is it even possible that crime is happening? How can someone get away with crime, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think that is what is spurring the demand. And if I may say so, this is what got me started, actually, right? So I'm a software engineer, went to business school, was a focusing on management consulting, advising large companies, senior executives on how to run their businesses more efficiently. And out of the blue, my garage gets broken into. I mean, I live in a pretty safe place in Silicon Valley, and I'm thinking, how is this even possible with so many cameras around? And I was pretty upset. I went to a police officer who was investigating it and asked him, explain to me, like, how can someone, even think they can commit a crime like that, and not get caught, right? And he said something very interesting. Hey, look, cameras are everywhere, but who's monitoring them? If no one's monitoring them, the thieves know it, and they know, they can get away. So you need to have a presence wherever, you're putting all these cameras. Someone has to feel that someone is looking at them, and if they commit a crime, they will get caught. I think that became the basis, right? And again, this can happen probably only in Silicon Valley. So I told him, hey, I have deep knowledge of AI, and I know how I can make that presence felt. When I see someone suspicious, I will actually play, a sound saying that, hey, who are you, in my voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
As though like I'm looking at it, right? And I'm upset, at someone, trying to break in. So what do you think about it? And again, as I said, right, that this can probably happen only here. Like as I was leaving, he says, "Hey, do you think you can take my investment? And everyone has come to me with a problem. No one has come to me with a solution. So no kidding. I just went and incorporated the company and brought him in as my first investor and
The
advisor.
police officer.
Yeah, police officer. That
You're
was my first
kidding.
investor.
That
Yeah.
is so cool.
I mean, talk about validation, right? You as a entrepreneur, you're looking to see, hey, is this something real? And here's a law enforcement official with probably 13 years of experience and managing a bunch of police officers and dealing with crime day in and day out, and is so frustrated, right? And says, "You got to solve it, man. And at least you're showing me some hope, that there's a way to do this, and I want in, right?" And that's basically how Sentry got started. And this is what excites me and gets me up every day to go and build this outstanding company and offering that'll help people feel safe and secure.
That is one of the coolest founding stories I've ever heard. That is incredible. It's unfortunate that it happened. Like you had to get your stuff stolen in order for all of that to occur. But in a way, it became like a good thing, which is
Yeah.
odd. In the end, so Sentry, like you said, like, hey, there's all these cameras everywhere, but who's monitoring them? So
Yeah.
the way I understand it is Sentry is the one who's monitoring them now. How does that work?
Yeah, so at the core, right, we have all these cameras. There's a lot of video, and the video is being processed, some on the camera itself and some remotely, right, on a processor somewhere. And everything is today just stored, right? Before Sentry AI kind of came into the picture, everything gets stored, and you pass on that video to a law enforcement. Hey, this is what happened. Can you help me, right? Our goal is to focus more on prevention. When I see something unusual happening, our AI, which is in the cloud, basically understands that there is some unusual activity here. And just like a human being, understands that, okay, this is unusual, and, I've got to explore and understand what's happening, right? So you start with probing questions. Hey, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you here? And, if the person, understands that somebody's looking and runs away, you kind of solve the problem, right? And if it's someone, your neighbor, who wants some help, they don't mind. I mean, they're going to answer, right? And our AI can actually interpret, oh, this is actually a real request for help, and relays it on to the owner of the property, right? To say, hey, somebody really needs your help. And and on the other side, right, if someone is committing a crime and is not leaving, even then you need to be alerted that, hey, you need to call the police or you need to do something about it. So that is effectively what Sentry AI is doing. It's an AI software which represents you, the owner of the property, or a security guard. And it's literally what it says, right? It's an AI version of a sentry, a protector, who is basically keeping an eye on the property and making sure the place is safe.
How far away are we where we all have our own guard dogs? Robot guard dogs, to be clear.
Interestingly, you may not need the robo guard dog, right? So there have been a lot of attempts at like using robos, like both like humanoid robos or like a dog, right? But if you see the economics of it, now you have a piece of metal, right? Carrying a camera on top, you are adding the battery to it, you're adding locomotion to it, right? But the cameras are so cheap, and they have very large view, right? A camera can look at 200 feet very clearly, and if you put like better lenses, you can go probably up to like a mile, right? Both in clear daylight as well as in using infrared at night times. When that is the case, why don't you just put like 10 cameras, right, around your property, instead of having a robo dog or a drone just going around, right? And then at some point needing a charge again. And also, you're spending a lot of energy to move this body around when you can just put like 10 cameras and cover the whole perimeter, right? So in my opinion, they look cool, all these humanoid robots and robo dogs, but what will really solve the problem is a ubiquitous presence of cameras everywhere, right? You have cameras on the walls, you have cameras in your cars, you have cameras on poles, you have cameras on the streets, on the bridges. I mean, you have cameras everywhere. I think that is the real way I think everyone is going to solve the problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of wild that we're going to live, or we already do kind of live in that type of society, but here we are, right? Like there's kind of no going back from that. So there's no point in even discussing whether any of that is good. Like there we are.
Yeah, the difference, right? Compared to, again, everyone's worried about like a 1984, right? Like a Orwellian situation.
Yeah, I tried not to say Orwell.
The difference is a private ownership of these cameras, right, compared to a public single entity owning everything, right? And I mean, you see any Hollywood movie, it's one entity having access to all the cameras, right, and making sense of things and creating this dystopian vision. I think there's a completely different approach to future, which is private, right? Like, I mean, imagine you are the wealthiest person, right? You can hire a security guard across your property. You can have 100 people, all around your property, right? So that is what you're trying to create with technology. You put 100 cameras, right? You can afford it, right? You don't need to be really rich to put 10 cameras or 100 cameras, actually, right? And I think that is the difference between how I think security can be done in a private way as compared to this dystopian way where a single AI is controlling everything, right? Instead, it will be private. You have your AI. Actually, the way you described is beautiful, which is, can I have my own robotic security guard, right?
Yeah.
And our idea is to give you your own personal sentry, that protects your property and shares any information only as you authorize. If you say no, nothing leaves my property, great. Sentry will keep an eye on your property and only inform you, will not even share it with law enforcement. I think that is the real answer to how we will get security without losing our privacy.
I know this is like the big question that everyone's asking, and who knows the answer to it, but I'd love to kind of get your take on the future of AI and where AI is going over the next 5 to 10 years, and what you think this world is going to look like from a security perspective, but even just like the power of this technology.
Again, and enough people have talked about it. My opinion is AI is probably the most powerful tool, right, that we have created. I mean, think about the smartest person that you can find, and you're trying to make a copy or at least simulate that person's thinking and democratizing that, right? You're providing that access to everyone. It's kind of very similar to what Google did with information, right? I mean, I could learn about a completely random language that I have never, seen any person, from, right, or heard any person say, but I can now access that information with just a few keystrokes, right? I think AI is just like that. It's a powerful tool which is providing us a lot of information, but now taking it to the next level, actually doing something about it and taking your commands and responding to it, right, and representing you in some ways. I think in that sense it's a very powerful tool, and just like any powerful tool, you need to make sure you're using it appropriately. And this is where I'm very, very strong about building all these privacy safeguards. You need to have your AI, I need to have my AI, right? And the government will have its own AI, right? So there will be so many different, layers of AI, and I think that is natural, and this is how it's going to evolve. But ultimately it's going to be a great tool to help us, become better, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Our lives will be better, we will have much better health outcomes, we'll have longer lifespans, we will solve a lot of very well known problems, right? And could be even like climate change. I think we will throw better quality resources at very intricate and intractable problems, that we thought, we as humans, we are not able to get to fast enough. You can have AI help you, again, as a tool to get there faster. I think that's basically how I see it. I don't completely believe in this dystopian world where AI is taking over. AI by definition doesn't have an objective. So it's not like you or me, we have a vision or we have a goal, we want to do something, and therefore use tools to get there, right? Unless, you empower this one particular entity with so much uh, access to this, either like electricity and power, the compute, and then give a very obnoxious goal. I don't see that as a big concern at this point. It should be all about how can I've now got hands on my a very powerful tool that can do a lot of good things for us. How can I make the best use of it? I think that's kind of where I see AI today. And I think there are enough sane people in the world that I think it will continue to be that way, right? So where we will come to a consensus on how to harness this amazing technology. So I'm very optimistic about the future with AI, and I strongly believe this is where we are going to go.
How do you think about raising money for your company? How have you thought about it up to this point? I mean, venture capital, debt, all this. Like, give us a sense for how you've built your company up to this point.
Yeah. So for Sentry AI, we have raised about 3.5 million to date from a variety of investors. First and foremost, as I said, many from law enforcement and with security background, CEOs of security companies, those who understand and are frustrated with the current state of affairs and what solutions are there in the market today. So we have a set of investors there, and we have a lot of AI optimists. They basically see how AI is going to transform what we are doing and how we will play in the future. There are many investors of that kind. We have some of the angel funds, and rounding out the investor group are a few very high net worth individuals. Tim Draper, who has invested in SpaceX, in Tesla, Coinbase, and 600 other companies, right? A futurist and who is strongly betting on AI and technology like ours to democratize access to security. We have him as an investor. We have Mark Randolph, who is the first CEO of Netflix. He's a strong believer in what we're doing. And the chief security officer of ServiceNow, Brian Tuscan, he's one of our investors. So we have some of the security personnel, security experts, we have AI experts, and we have these futurists who see the potential of AI and the security getting transformed with AI. So these are the kind of investors we have. And for the next stage, so we are getting close to 1 million in revenues this year. So we are looking to raise a pretty big round, maybe early to mid next year, to scale our operations. So, and our focus then would be reaching out to VCs who are interested in AI as a transformative force, right? Applied to various verticals. We know a lot of AI companies are investing in the horizontal solutions. So at some point, once that is done, they have to focus on the vertical. It would be healthcare, it would be security, it would be transportation, logistics, and Sentry's goal is to dominate the security vertical and show that we've got the best solution using AI and people to provide world-class security. Something that we haven't seen before the arrival of AI.
What does a typical day look like for you?
Yeah, so it's as an entrepreneur, you're always racing against time in a way, and with very few resources. So I try to prioritize my day very aggressively. Look for what can create the most impact. And I strongly believe that my role in the company is to help others succeed, empower them. And my first order of business is to see what are the roadblocks my team has, and what are the things on my plate I can do to make them successful. And that's like number one on my list, right? So if someone needs a document, they need a different messaging, they need a different way to solve a problem, they want an introduction to a particular expert in technology or security, I'm here, right? So that's my job, to help them succeed, and that takes priority. And of course, I create enough like white spaces within my day where I just take time to think, hey, what's going on, how is the company doing, what can I do to add more value, are we in the right direction, are we tracking to our vision that we set out in the beginning, or are we deviating, are we getting distracted by smaller issues, right? So I think this is kind of where I keep switching between the two modes. where I need to get a few things done so that I keep people occupied and get them march on. And I take some times away where I just relax. I'm big into yoga and meditation, so I take my time to completely shut down and just think very deeply about certain things. And again, um, my routine, right? So there's enough of uh, thinking and working, but also enough of physical exercise. I do run when I can. I do my yoga. I play some sports when I can, and everything to kind of mix up both sitting at the desk as well as walking, moving, and keep changing up so that uh, I think you get great ideas, insights when you least expect them. And so you need to give both. You need to be very intensely working on certain problems, and then you need those periods of complete detachment where you let your subconscious mind actually come up with some insights and solutions. So I kind of intersperse bouts of activity and space to help me perform better in my company.
What do you read? What reading recommendations would you have for us?
I love reading. I love reading about philosophy. I love reading about how entrepreneurs and leaders have built companies, organizations. Fundamental, topics related to science, mathematics. Lately, I've been reading Leviathan by Hobbes, written back in like 1650s or so. A different take on what does it mean to be a citizen, who's why do we surrender certain rights to the government, right? Especially when we are just coming off a very charged political calendar, right? The topics like these, right, kind of interest me. What is security? Why do we do what we do? So these are the topics I cover. I've read a lot of books about how, for example, Netflix got started. I read the whole biography of Tesla by Walter Isaacson. So I've read about Jennifer Doudna's whole story about CRISPR and how they're transforming the genome. I just love to read about completely different topics and absorb what's happening elsewhere and what can I bring back to the problem that I'm solving, right? So, which is how do I improve security? How do I make the society crime free? And all this philosophy goes back to the same. Why do people commit crime? I mean, it still boggles my mind. What makes someone just go walk in? I mean, you see all these videos where people just go take stuff and walk away. I mean, how can it be a victimless crime? Somebody somewhere is paying for it. What makes you think you can go and do it, right? So I have very fundamental questions. Why do people behave the way they do? And you do certain things at an individual level, and certain other weird things at a group level, right? So all these things, really interest me. I mean, I love to know more about it and see how I can apply those insights to changing how we can feel safe and secure.
With the election behind us now, and we can look forward, and we know who's going to be running the government in 2024. How are you thinking about 2024? Do you think it's going to be a down year for tech, regular year, up year? Like how are you thinking about and planning for the market environment in the coming year?
Oh, it's a very clear message, right? Which is next 4 years, it's all going to be about security, right? I mean, we can go into deeper questions of, I mean, are people really, in a bad place right now? But everyone feels, hey, we need to invest more in security. And I think that's a given. And from that perspective, technology is fundamental. I mean, there are a lot of macro conditions that are impacting the presence of people or contributions of people within security. When you look at how many people are getting into the security industry, I mean, you see police departments struggling to hire enough law enforcement officials, right? There are not enough border patrol agents. There are not enough cops on the beat, to secure places. So and I mean, again, we can go into the reasons why, but that's the truth, that it's a
Mhm.
fact that
Yeah,
the security
absolutely.
industry is not able to attract enough people, and there are people who are aging out, right? Those who used to be security guards, now there are not enough younger people who are coming into the profession, right? So it's becoming a challenge for the industry to grow today with just people alone, and therefore that will be complemented. So you got the demand, and from the supply side, you don't have enough people, and then the human costs have gone up because of inflation. So there are so many factors which are strongly indicating that tech is going to have a huge presence in the next 4 years and beyond, where it's going to fill that need, that everyone wants to feel more secure, and that a problem or that gap will be actually filled by technology. You will have more cameras, you'll have more AI agents that are monitoring on your behalf, and they will activate the needed systems. It could be as simple as automatic doors, right, which shut down, to drones flying out. Could be your robotic dogs which are like left out. It would be, I think, calling law enforcement to the right places and optimizing their time. So there's so many things, I think, that will be happening over the next 4 years, that you will see a huge interest in security and how to solve the security problems with technology. So I'm pretty optimistic about it, about how this will be done. And I think the net, right, again, would be a safer security, safer society, I would say. um, and it's kind of paradoxical, right? Like, you need that kind of fear to get that investment, and when you have that investment, then you actually calm down, right? Now you feel like, okay, now you see the data coming in, now you see that, hey, the crime has gone down, and people will start feeling secure. But for that to happen, you have this precipitating event where you drum up a lot of fear, and unfortunately it happened during this election process. But as it basically works its way out for the next 4 years, you will see tremendous investments in security.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually a really, really interesting take on the future. All right, finally, we end every interview with the same question, and that is, at CEO.com, we believe the chances one gives is just as important as the chances one takes. When you hear that, who gave you a chance to get you to where you are today?
Oh, that was such a hard one. So when I thought about it, right, it's just so many people who have helped me be where I am. I mean, it's just impossible for me to pick like one person. I have been helped throughout my life. Again, this is where I almost get emotional, right? Thinking about all the people who have helped me get to where I am. Including even my grandfather, who when I was really didn't have money during my undergrad years, I mean, he helped me apply to a bunch of foundations to get some scholarships so that I could pay the bills. That could be the starting point. It could be something as recent as the police officer who basically gave me a break, saying that, hey, you're on the right track, go build this thing, right? uh, it's so hard to that's why it makes me so humble. And when somebody asks now for any kind of help, uh, uh, I will try my best, right? Because you never know who you're going to influence and who you're going to help now. And they will think of this as, oh man, that was the one that got me a break. So very tough question. It just makes me very emotional to think about all the people who have helped me get to where I am today.
You have one of the most fascinating and incredible founding stories that I've ever heard. Uday, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sure we'll have you on again as you continue to progress. Best of luck into 2024, and we'll see you down the road. Thank you so much, my friend.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure and honor to be on your show. Thank you so much, Clint. We
Thank
appreciate it.
you.